In a season of time and change, I am asked to consider what matters most to me, to draw on my life experiences and describe in much detail the things that impact who I am and the way I live my life. But the more I think about this question, the less confident I become in my ability to give a unique answer. The things that matter most in life are things that unify us. What is the one thing everyone has? A story. A story of where you come from and what you value. The story of your identity and passions and what you've experienced and what you've overcome. This is my story. I come from a place in southeastern Ohio, sometimes known as the Forgotten Corner of the state. Here in Jackson County, we are home to many things like the Apple Festival and summer church picnics and high school football games. Some say that small towns are dying. Opportunities seem to be fleeing. Kids and young families are growing up and leaving. Despite this, I know there is more to be done here, and I have hope for my hometown. I was born on the cusp of a new millennium. In the 2000s, change was the only consistent thing. While the world spins madly around, small towns are a haven for those who prefer slow-paced change. And for 14 years of my life, I wasn't forced to adapt. My life as an only child was quiet and full of wonder. I would write stories. I would script my life line by line. My mind created a reel of moving pictures. I was very fearful as a child and would do anything to avoid getting hurt. I was scared of swimming. "Don't let go of me," I'd yell to my dad. I wouldn't ride a bike without training wheels until I was 8. I wouldn't go near large animals, listen to fireworks, or play in the dirt. In my family, I was known as the scaredy cat. But as much as I feared material things, I was never afraid of marching alone to the beat of a drum, talking in front of others, commanding a room, or performing. Because this is where my inner world and outer world collided. In both worlds, I was safe to be myself, safe to be valued for my authenticity, worthy of being known. But great loss and trauma produced feelings of inadequacy, hurt, shame, and unworthiness. In 2012, my father's death invoked a new wave of change, incomprehensible change. I had to take on new responsibilities. I was increasingly aware of the inequity and sadness that plagued our world. I had to become an advocate for myself and for my family. I realized how little power I had over my circumstances, but how strong faith and loving people can ease you through mourning. But most of all, I had to grow up. In gaining maturity, I came face to face with my shortcomings. I saw that the world was not always like the peaceful and wonderful childhood that I had experienced. After losing my hair, I felt as though I had lost my identity, along with a sense of control over my life. I would gain faith, and then I wrestled with it. Many wonderful people came to fill space in my heart and be the very thing that I could not be for myself. Their prayers, unconditional support, and encouragement eased me through mourning. In the presence of many trials, I had to surrender to the things I could not change and focus my energy on the things that I could. Romans 5:3-5 says, "Rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance. Endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit." After going through the valleys of life, I know that my character has been shaped and molded into somebody who is strong and confident, and above all things, hopeful. Hopeful in the present and hopeful for a life after death. Hopeful because I know who to put my hope in. With each new misfortune and error comes growth. It does not do us good to dwell on our mistakes and forget to grow, nor does it do us good to forget our mistakes, else we think too highly of ourselves. I regain a sense of resiliency when I take time to remember who I am and I write my story. When I muster up the courage to ask for help, when I feel as though I am enough. But there is still one unanswered question. What matters most in this life? The things that are intangible, the things that are eternal, even the things that are here and now in the present moment. Relationships, fulfilling one's purpose, serving, leading, invoking inspiration, and being quick to love, but above all, what matters most is being able to live and share your story with others. This reminds me to stay within the present moment, to be thankful for the back hills of where I've come from, to remember the lost and forgotten, to practice gratitude. As I end my senior year of college, I see the circular pattern of life always coming back to a single origin, a point where every motivation you've had changed. This was the death of my father. My origin story is one of loss, hardship, confusion, restoration, and again, hope. His death was the moment that I changed into someone fearless and outgoing, the moment I transitioned from childhood to adulthood and found a way to live in both, the moment I found my faith in something bigger than life and death. And it is the same origin which has led me to study the trees and the hills and its people that my father once knew, to study economic impacts on rural communities, to understand driving forces behind the natural resource industry. This is the very thing that is a part of my namesake, a path of my father, a path of my own, two paths becoming one. In seasons of time and change, when something you envision, something you work so hard for becomes a reality, there is a sort of congruence between an inner and outer world. I find that I am balanced when I embrace acceptance with joy and I actively choose to live in the poetic tension of what could be for what is. I find identity in the context of relationships, friendships, worship, and family. I find purpose when I take a step back and envision a life bigger than myself, a life my 10-year-old self would be amazed to see. In education, I find a world of opportunity, an earth-sized library filled with the stories of each individual, and when I come across a book with my name on it, I want to be sure it was me who wrote it. A story of my inner thoughts, failure, laughter, learning, and love. A story that is worthy of being heard, a story that is unique and true to myself. Let my wild ideas roar.